What's up guys? In this video, I want to show you how you can build GDPR compliant AI systems in your company. If you're running a company in Europe, you probably know by now that there's so many regulations that you need to follow in order to be compliant.
Now, EU lawmakers have just approved the world's first legal framework on artificial intelligence.
The proposed EU AI Act would see applications assigned to one of 4 risk categories.
The Act aims to balance the safety and reliability of AI use for people across Europe.
And that includes if you want to add simply AI into your company by using AI tools, by using ChatGPT and many other providers. There's some stuff that you need to watch out for, and this is the purpose of this video. So a quick disclaimer before we jump in. I'm not a lawyer and I am not a GDPR specialist. I am an AI automation agency owner who is operating from Germany, Europe, and these are some of the stuff that I figured out by simply needing to do the research because I wanted to provide these services for my clients. And what I will show you here today is the end result of some of that research and some of the stuff that you can focus on. As you know, the topic of GDPR compliance and data security in general is a very, very big topic. And I tried to summarize some of the things that you can just do right now and already push you and make you move so much forward. So here I prepared for us a quick checklist. As I mentioned in this video, there are many different areas where you need to watch out for regarding GDPR and compliance. But for this video, we're going to focus on one specific area, which is using third-party tools. So we will start with the first topic, like the hosting and the tool location. So for example, I usually like to work with example because it simplifies things. Let's say somebody told you, let's use n8n. You heard it's an amazing automation tool. You can build AI agents, connect them to your system, and you want to see how you can do this in Europe and stay compliant. So one of the things that when you try to use such a tool, one of the stuff that you can either use their cloud or you can self-host it on your infrastructure. So let's say that you're not tech savvy, you don't have servers, you don't have maybe a development team, and you want to use their cloud provider. So what are the stuff that maybe you should look out for? If you look at every SaaS company that offers some sort of a solution, they usually have such a thing in the bottom of every website. You have a privacy, security, and imprint, of course. So if you click on the privacy, this is what should be of your concern. Here, every company, including yours, which I assume you already are doing, mention in the privacy policy what are the stuff that it's tracking. So for example, it tells you how are they using your data, who are they sharing the data with, where is my data stored. They tell you here that your data is stored in the EU because n8n is a German tool. They actually are here based also in Berlin. But if you use other tools that also been presented online, maybe on YouTube, they could be that they are storing your data somewhere outside of the EU. And this is where it becomes a little bit complicated. Let's say your business is tracking personal data from a customer, like you're taking their names, you're taking their email addresses, stuff like that. And you want to use a tool like this. For example, you want to build an AI agent that processes people's names and write them something that is personal. And here you're basically are handling people's personal data. And you need to watch out of how are you using these tools. So the first thing that you should definitely watch out for is like, where is this tool putting my data in? So each tool technically should specify where are the servers storing the data in. If you also want to have a look deeper into like understanding how these tools are processing your data and what are stuff that they're doing, some of them also add extra information. For example, for n8n, there's like this extra page where it specifically specifies like the GDPR stuff. So it tells you where, for example, in which location, geographic location is the servers hosted. It's hosted with Microsoft Azure. What other stuff are implicated? And they give you some tips about the self-hosting. So if you're self-hosting, you should delete the logs. So if you're logging, let's say a user is interacting with your AI system, let's say you build a chatbot and you're taking their information, you're taking their address in this chatbot to do certain things. And these information are staying there in the logs, right? So somebody can go through these logs and check out this personal information. So they also tell you like that you should delete these maybe every 14 days, the default. I will show you a small example in a second. But that's technically the first thing that you should look for. So every tool that you want to use in your business, you need to see where is this tool going to be hosting my data? Where is it going to be processing my data and where is going to be storing my data? And usually these tools specify this in this privacy policy, as I showed you here. So that's the first location you should look out for. So as I showed you here, I tried to write a checklist where you need to see what are the tools, for example, that you're going to be using in your business. And for each tool, make sure that it has AO region self-hosting. For end-to-end, for example, you can definitely choose the self-hosting option, and then you have control over all the data. So you're not sharing any data with end-to-end. If you're using their cloud, what happens? You need to basically sign a data processing agreement with end-to-end. Some of these, it says here. So here's where it shows you, like you can download the data processing agreement, and then maybe you can sign it and send a copy to the privacy of end-to-end. So this is how you become basically compliant, telling them that, okay, this is how we agree that you're going to be processing my data. And usually on your website, if you, for example, enroll this new tool on your website, you need to say that, hey, we just added a new tool that's going to be sub-processing your data. We are sharing this information with end-to-end, and this is why we're sharing it. Maybe to improve the personalization experience that you have with us and stuff like this. So you need to justify why are you sending your customers' personal data to end-to-end. But if you want to save yourself a headache, and I guess you want to do that, you can self-host it on your own infrastructure. Let's say you have some servers somewhere, or if you have already a contract, like let's say you already use Hostinga, for example, or you already use Google Cloud, or you already use Azure to deploy your website or web app or whatever you have, you can host end-to-end on that server as well. And then basically you don't need to add anything else because you already are sharing these data with this cloud provider. Your customers already know about it. But here is important. So whatever you choose, make sure that the server location is also somewhere in Europe. This sometimes doesn't come as a default. Sometimes they say server location is globally. So make sure you put it, the data residency should be in Europe. So this is, again, if you want to self-host something, make sure the data also stay in Europe. And if you're wondering why is it that we cannot send our data to a location outside of Europe, this is also part of GDPR, but it's more into it's a very specific section of GDPR that if you want to send someone's personal data to outside of Europe, then there are certain regulations that makes it a little bit more difficult. And depending on the country you're sharing it with, some countries are by default given like permission to do so. Like the EU checked out how these countries are processing the data and stuff like that, and then gives you maybe a green flag. Other countries, you cannot do this. For example, in the US, it's sometimes of a question mark because they have certain rules where certain legislations can just look into your data whenever they want or something like that. So I would say the US is a little bit of a red flag, not a red flag, but just a question mark. So make sure, just to save yourself a headache, put everything in the EU. And now let's give to the second question. So let's say you're using end-to-end, you want to build AI agents, and you see online that everybody is using ChatGPT, using here, this node, like the OpenAI, or you want to use OpenAI in general, like you want to use the ChatGPT, you want to use maybe the user interface, or you want to use even their API. So here we're calling the API. If you're unfamiliar with this is again end-to-end. It's a tool that helps you build AI systems and AI agents in your company and abstracts it. So it's like a low-code tool. As you see, you can just create here an AI agent, you can give it a function, blah, 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 and you can then chat with it. So if you want to connect it with the API like this, so this connects to the normal OpenAI that is in the US. So basically what you can do here, you can do certain functions, but you cannot add someone's personal information. Like the moment you start sending like, hey, this is Surab, like with my last name, did this is his email address. Here is where it becomes problematic. So what I would recommend, there's an easy way to move around this limitation without also losing accuracy. I saw online some people are promoting these local LLMs. So there's like Olama, if you heard about it. It's like this server that you can use local LLMs. I mean, here in this case, they are not local, meaning on your machine, but you maybe install them on Hostinga as well. This is where I'm hosting my end-to-end because it's much cheaper to do so. And then you can install these models there, and then you can use it from within end-to-end. So this is the absolute best solution for privacy. And I will show a future video how you can do so. But unfortunately, these Olama models, you need GPUs, you need like the larger models. There's like models with different parameters. There's like the 7 billion, the 1.5 billion. And usually if you want high accuracy, similar to stuff you're used to using OpenAI, you need a very high model with a very high parameter number. And unfortunately, these things, they usually require you to have some GPUs. So Hostinger here, they provide you with like a CPU server. So here it would be very slow to run one of these bigger models, not let alone probably would even crash the memory if it require like a large RAM to run these two. So as you notice, like maybe running local LLMs might not be be the most efficient thing to do from day one. But certain applications, maybe healthcare, or maybe, I don't know, like companies that are dealing with money, for example, or that require certain compliance, maybe, yeah, go for the local LLMs. But companies that, let's say you want to use OpenAI, but you don't want to use it from their server because you don't want to send your data to the US, you can use the integrated Azure point. So I will also show you how to set up this one. On Azure, you can specify to host the same model from OpenAI in Europe. And then you can actually also use it directly into n8n. This is something I will show you in a second, how to set that one up. But this saves you so much headache of you sending your data to outside of the AU. And you can use all the models that are provided by OpenAI because Azure is Microsoft. So you are signing a deal with Microsoft. And if you're hosting already some of your services on Microsoft, then this would be a very easy low-cost expansion to use AI in your system. All right. So now let's move into the second part of the things that you should watch out for. For example, if you're using databases, I've seen online that people are showing you all these different databases you can use, like Supabase, Airtable. There's many different ones that keep pop out every once in a while. Here also you need to watch out for one thing. Like let's say you want to use Supabase, which is like a very nice database, looks like this. And here again, it's the same thing. So whenever you create a project or you're hosting your data somewhere, then you need to make sure also the data is hosted in Europe. And Supabase does offer European hosting. So it's a very nice extension. Let me see if I can find the point where it says where it is hosted. Oh, here we go. So the infrastructure is also hosted in Germany, which makes it super efficient for our use and also becomes compliant. But here again, I'm not going to go into the details. Of course, if you're taking someone's data, you need to worry about many different things like the enable encryption at rest. So Supabase does offer this out of the hood. Most databases offer this automatically, so you don't need to worry about that. But here is something that maybe you should worry about. So the automatic deletion. So if you have a database, let's say you're putting someone's data and then you just forget about it usually for like a year or two, you don't delete it. So here, maybe make sure to put some sort of automations in place that you check when you added someone's data, and then maybe every 6 months, make sure to delete this data if you're not using it, right? So don't just keep piling up new data and never delete it. But these are just best practices when it comes to saving customers' data sets that I'm not going to go too much deep into this because like the databases alone is like a massive topic as well. So what I would like to focus on is this part, which I already mentioned. And if you want to use OpenAI, there's an easy way to use it using Azure. And this is what I would also recommend for every European business that wants to be compliant. So with Azure, I'm going to show you how to do it. It's a little bit hidden somewhere. It's a little bit weird. So this is my Azure account. And let's say you want to now to use the OpenAI. So I haven't seen many videos out there on how to do so. So I'm going to show you how to do so here. So you create a resource and then you click here, create Azure OpenAI. Usually you should have like a subscription or a resource group. You can just create a new one. I already have one, so I'll just add it here. This is important. In the region, you should add somewhere that is like European. So here is a US. I usually put the Germany and just say OpenAI Germany new and the pricing tier like the standard. And let's just continue, no tags, and let's do create. So here it usually takes a couple of minutes to deploy this service, the subscription model. And then inside we can then create these new models that are deployed in Europe that we can use in n8n, or you can also use in your traditional application, like using your API or stuff like that. So if we go here to the resource, and you will see this button here. So explore OpenAI Foundry. And here we go. Here it says create deployments. If you want a chat model or like the deployments, we see I would like to create a deploy model, deploy a base model. And here now you choose the model that you want. So I usually use like GPT 4.1 mini. It's chat completion, confirm. And this is the most important thing. So the deployment type, if you keep it as global standard, then it has been deployed globally, which is not what we want. We want data zone standard. So this would now say your deployment is in Germany West. We'll process the data within the AUR data zone. And now this is exactly what we want. Let's create a deployment. And here are the informations that we need to connect with this. So let's go back to OpenAI, to n8n. So I showed you that we created this Azure. So I had this before, but let me create a new one. So you need the API key. So you can take it literally from here. Let's copy this. And then the resource name, we need to I will show you, is this one, the OpenAI Germany new. So the name that you gave it, API version, and then the endpoint you usually get from here. So endpoint. I cannot copy it. Yes. Alrighty. So let's try to connect with it. And now the model deployment name. So this is what you named it here. This one, GPT 4.1. So every time you deploy a new model, you can pick it up from here. And that should be it. Let's give it a test. Let's delete this one. Hi, how can I assist you today? And it's now using a compliant OpenAI model that is deployed in Europe. So as you saw, it takes you maybe 5 minutes. It's the same thing. I mean, maybe creating the Azure account takes a little bit of time. You need to set up also the payment and everything. But now you are not sharing your data with OpenAI in the US. The data stays in Microsoft. So you're not sharing data with OpenAI at all, which is really good. Also, no model is trained on your data. This is also important. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if you use ChatGPT user interface, the data that you write there is usually also used for training the models. So whatever you put and paste into this chat user interface, that's usually is retrained. I think there is a config that you say don't train on my data, or if you use this private section. So there's a private section where you say, hey, this conversation is private. Then usually the data is deleted after a day. But that's why I really don't recommend using this chat user interface, especially for something sensitive, because you're leaking a lot of data to OpenAI and you're probably training new AI models using your company data, for example. All right. So now that we went through this, also I discussed about the training, the data models. What you can also use is to try to apply pseudo-anonymization. So whenever as I said, like the most things that are important for us is not to share personal data. But if you're just sending normal data, like your customers' names or emails, just like asking some questions, you can use the normal OpenAI. That's no problem. You can just connect with it and just ask it certain questions. Also solving some, let's say you have some FAQ tickets that is publicly shared and you want to answer the person with maybe an answer from this FAQ. So you also don't need to worry about all these stuff because you're not sharing personal data. So if you're saving the data, you try to also apply some pseudonymization, try to remove these personal identifiable information within the data. There are some techniques that you can do to make the data like a little bit more anonymized. But this is a very big topic as well. But just so you know that you can technically use OpenAI and other services if you're not sending it someone's personal data. This is just a last point into what I also showed you. If you want to use someone's cloud provider or SaaS, make sure that they have a signed DPA. I showed you how to get it. So you can also download it from NetN, sign it and send it to them. This especially if you have like a larger company. Maybe if you're small and like quite local business, or if you're just starting out, this is maybe an overkill. I remember when I just first starting out, I was really nervous about all these things. I was trying to do everything properly. And at some point, the pain gets so high that it stops you from doing any work. And it was just so frustrating to see all these rules. And I was so nervous all the time because I saw the fines are so high. But I think these things also depends on the size of the company and the size of personal data. Like if you're getting someone's health information and then you started leaking it and it fell into the wrong hands and these people used it against this person, maybe to decline him from getting health insurance. These are the stuff that people are really worried about. But if you just leaked someone's first name, like how bad that can be. It's still bad, but there's like levels to the risk. So I would say just like verify these 4 points and you already save yourself so much headache. There's still way more things that you need to watch out for, like to document how you're processing. I also, as I mentioned in the beginning, I assume whatever data you're collecting, you have consent for, and you're informing people in your own privacy policy how you're processing these. And if you add new tools, you tell them, oh, we just added a new tool that's going to be sub-processing your data if you're using their cloud version. This topic is quite large, but I think if you already check these things, so this point that the data is hosted in Europe and you're using OpenAI from Azure, you are already way far ahead compared to people who just not even looking into this topic. And that should give you some peace of mind that you're doing something actively, not to get in trouble. And usually people who get in trouble are the ones who maybe get a complaint or they are doing so much negligence that maybe they deserve to get in trouble or something something like that. I don't know. But try to be careful. As I said, this topic is very large, and I try to simplify it as much as I can and show you some tips how you can use very powerful models while still being compliant in Europe. So if you like this video, I try to share these checklists also in my newsletter. So make sure to check it out. You can find the link in the description. I'm also going to be sharing a lot of different learnings. I'm not going to spam. Maybe once a month, I will send out some things that I find about AI, but this practical aspect of AI, not just, oh, there's a new tool, nano banana, or something crazy that everybody's getting excited about, but stuff that really matters for businesses. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you in the next one.